An eye on all of these results in Cardiff. What did you make of that, Ione? A very strong Conservative performance there.
That's right, Hugh. Really interesting to see that the Conservatives are making ground in Montgomeryshire. I don't think it comes as a big surprise that they've won it. It was a pretty safe seat over the last few years. They have been expecting a bit of increased support there. So interesting to note that their support has been building, and it will be encouraging for them. Although, obviously, what the Conservatives are really hoping in this election is to try and make gains from Labour. So a question will be, is this enough of a sign to suggest that they may be on course to win further seats in some of those more marginal seats, particularly some of those further north in the northeast, or is this just a sign that they are making gains but actually potentially not enough to clinch it in other areas?
Well, I'm just wondering now, if we see that kind of boost in the Conservative vote, and I'm assuming obviously that UKIP and the Brexit Party in the past having done quite well in areas like this, some of that will have gone back to the Conservatives in this instance. As we look again towards some of those seats where the battle is different, it's not to do with Conservatives and Plaid Cymru or the Lib Dems in this sense. It's to do with Conservatives and Labour, who are up 8% in this seat. Does that tell us something? Do you think that 8% rise was something to do with what some people call a COVID bounce, which is a horrible phrase, but it's to do with, a political benefit out of the way it's been handled?
That's right. I think Labour's increase of the vote share is really interesting here. I mean, Labour, as we've discussed, has seen a big kind of bounce in their support in this campaign. Their leader, Mark Drakeford, has had his profile kind of massively boosted by the pandemic because he's been really kind of at the forefront of a lot of the COVID coverage. He's obviously been leading TV conferences on the handling of the pandemic. Polls have repeatedly suggested higher support for his handling of the pandemic in Wales compared to Boris Johnson's handling of the pandemic in London. So it's definitely interesting to note that Labour have been gaining ground in places like Montgomeryshire that weren't really on the radar for them. This has very much been a sort of previously a race between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. But interestingly to note here that Plaid Cymru have overtaken the Liberal Democrats. That's something that won't be particularly heartening for them. They're fighting a kind of very local battle in this election, really to hold on to their only seat that they've been defending in this election, which is Brecon and Radnorshire. The fact that they've slipped to third place in somewhere like Montgomeryshire won't be a particularly positive sign for them either.
That's exactly what I was going to raise next, Ione, actually, which is that Brecon and Radnor seat, not a million miles away from Montgomeryshire, as we know. And I'm just thinking, well, what will the Lib Dems there be thinking now, given what they've seen in Montgomeryshire, given their previous strength there? What do you think are their chances of holding on to Brecon and Radnor? As you say, their only seat in the Senedd last time.
That's right. I mean, I think this result will definitely have made them nervous because it's an increase of the Conservative share, it's a decrease of their share. And obviously those two parties are in direct competition in Brecon and Radnorshire. So I think this will certainly worry the Liberal Democrats in terms of holding on to that seat in Brecon and Radnorshire. But remember that, of course, the way that the Welsh election system works means that if they were to lose that constituency seat in Brecon and Radnorshire but still pick up a significant share of the vote in that area, then they may be in for a chance of compensating that by picking up a seat on the regional list in Mid and West Wales. Their leader, Jane Dodds, is standing there, so it could be that she manages to pick up a seat if they do lose Brecon and Radnorshire. But certainly I think the Montgomeryshire result won't be particularly heartening for them. And interestingly to note, they have been a bit quiet today. Obviously it's very early days. It's hard to call anything yet, but, we're already hearing a lot from different parties about how they're feeling. Tends to be that if the parties aren't putting out a huge amount of kind of information about what they're thinking, how they're feeling at the counts, it could be a sign that they are a bit nervous about them. Indeed.
Ione, thanks very much. We'll talk to you later. Ione Wells there with some analysis. Ione's in Cardiff, but talking there about Montgomeryshire.